Hey, friends, and cheers. Tomorrow night, about this time, we will probably have learned that the Federal Reserve has decided to cut the overnight lending rate, um, also known as the Fed funds rate, by, you know, 25 basis points to who knows, they might go as far as 100 basis points. Anybody knows at this point. The jobs numbers have looked really bad the last few reports. So, the inflation rate is still well north of their 2% target, which is an absurd target to begin with. It ought to be zero, but it's actually running around 3% at this point, 2.9%. And if you that's the official numbers. If you listen to Larry Summers, who was the Secretary of Treasury under the Clinton administration, he has said on numerous occasions, because he knows the um, how the CPI numbers are manipulated by the government, that really, if you look at the CPI, you can pretty much double it, and that's what real inflation is. So here we are, still running pretty hot on inflation, and we're going to get a rate cut because the job market is just really, really bad. Now, what will this mean for most people? If you're someone kind of like me, it could benefit you pretty nicely. It's going to make capital cheap, and if you've got assets or want to purchase assets and you don't really need the money, I have no real debt other than my primary mortgage, then money's just going to get cheaper for me. But if you're a person who's already, paying 26, 27% on credit card debt, and the interest rate drops to say 24 or 23%, you're probably not going to feel much of an effect on it. Also, just because the Fed, and I've said this before in other videos, just because the Fed cuts those short term rates doesn't necessarily mean longer term rates are going to follow suit. And the reason being is because if there is fear of high inflation, people are not going to want to take a 4 or 5% interest rate on, say, a 10-year bond or a 20-year bond or even a 30-year bond, when the value of that money is just going to be, considerably less by the time they get out there. So their interest rate won't even cover the rate of inflation, most likely. So it's very, very possible that longer term rates, which the mortgages are typically tied close to the 10-year bond, they could actually stay the same or go up, like we saw last year when the Fed cut 100 basis points. But let me tell you another group that's really, really going to benefit from interest rate cuts, and that is corporations. Why? Well, corporations are going to be able to get their money much cheaper than they're currently paying. And the assumption here, I think, is where the fallacy may lie, because the assumption is going to be that, oh, well, these corporations are going to start reinvesting in capital and they're going to start hiring and all. I have another hypothesis. What I really think is going to happen, because the insiders at corporations have been selling stocks for a year now. They know how overvalued the overall stock market is and how overvalued their companies are. So they've been selling. They're net sellers. They know that the consumers are pushed to their very edge. So they're kind of anticipating a recession. So they can take cheap money, put it on their balance sheet, and when the stock prices drop, which they inevitably will, then they'll buy back more shares. Also, I think that the money that's deployed on capital cheaply is going to be, you're going to see this acceleration in spending on artificial intelligence, which the acceleration of artificial intelligence just means that it's going to displace people at a faster rate. So while the interest rate cut may look good on the surface, I don't think it's going to be good for us long term. I don't think it's going to be good for the overall population long term. In fact, I think it is going to, initially, we may get a kind of an adrenaline rush out of it, but I think there are going to be deflationary pressures going into next year. I don't really expect the Christmas season to be that strong this year because, again, consumers are pretty much stretched out on credit as far as they can be, unless banks just come out and start issuing a bunch of new credit, which who knows? I think that's what's carried us this far, this long already. But the Christmas season might be pretty weak, and when the Christmas season becomes pretty weak, companies are going to start even laying off more people. Then you've got the whole housing market situation where the homes are so overvalued. There's tons more sellers right now than there are buyers in the market, and people are saying it's because of the interest rates. I think that is a very small piece of it. Most of it's just the affordability. I mean, I look at real estate all the time, and when I see home prices at 250, 300, $325 a square foot, I'm not going to buy. I mean, I certainly wouldn't even begin to spend that kind of money on a house. So, we've got an affordability issue in the housing market. We've got affordability on auto loans or the automobile market. Car lots are packed full. I mean, even great sellers like Toyota and the Honda Accord and the Toyota Camry and cars that normally just you can't keep them on the lot. These things are starting to see 45, 50, 55 uh, days on the lot. Trucks right now, the F-150, the F-250, the Silverados, the Yukons, trucks like that, the Dodge Ram. I saw a report the other day, the Dodge Ram 1500, the average days on the lot right now is somewhere around 190 days on the lot. That's over 6 months. So, cars are unaffordable, homes are unaffordable, food is just about unaffordable without buy now, pay later. So yeah, this is a real mess. This mess started back in 2020 during Trump's first administration with all the $4.2 trillion of stimulus that was thrown out into an economy that couldn't spend it. That's where the inflation started. Like it or not, that is reality. And of course, Biden doubled down on it. His administration just kept pouring fuel to the fire. And so we are in a mess. We are in a big mess. And unless the system breaks and we get to kind of reset everything, and I don't really like to use that word because that's too much like the Great Reset that you heard everything about back in 2020 and 2021. But the system's going to have to come to a new equilibrium point before the economy really starts picking back up. So if you're cheerleading the rate cut tomorrow, then let's cheer together. But I really think probably 75 to 80% of the population isn't going to even feel it. Have a good evening.